Right. Anyways, let's jump in here. Unicorns with a standard red side ban so far in the jungle, targeting Svenskeren, no problem there. These are pretty much across the board, actually, the standard bans you expect.
Yeah, especially the Caitlyn high priority here in North America. Double said he enjoys it, can play more of the pop-off champions, the Tristana, the Callista, things like this. We'll see if he comes to that one yet again. Gragas first pick, gonna be the grab yet again, a top jungle flex. It also ends up being Hanser's most played champion, the #2 here for Vizicachi after that Shen ban.
I wonder if you are the Unicorns of Love, considering what is available. In the past, like, usually they invest early on in the top side of the map if they can, so the Shen and the Galio, but given that both of those are away, they'll often go towards getting an early AD carry and an early jungle pick. This is usually where they would try and get themselves something like the Warwick, so that Zeus at the very least has something comfortable, but instead, they're just going to invest into a strong 2v2 bottom lane, and here in Europe, we do love our Rakan.
Yeah, the Unicorns of Love indeed, and they have the bottom lane of love. The bottom lane of playmaking is actually what it should be named, because Rakan, we saw it on display so many times in North America, right out of the gates as soon as the patch went live, the super long distance that you can engage with this champion. And I think that Unicorns, this is good for them. Going back to something where they can just have a go button. They can guarantee themselves fights if they want them. It's almost impossible. You can engage from basically a screen away, so unless there's incredible warding, they should at least have that option.
I'm a little surprised that TSM chose to go for the Braum rather than the Tahm Kench. I think both are fine into the Rakan, but Tahm Kench really disables all of Rakan's playmaking potential during the laning phase, simply because every time you try to go into a target, Nom, I'm going to eat you up, I'm going to take you to safety.
And especially the fact that even Thresh was allowed up, and it's been such a prolific champion, but it's not going to be picked up here in this matchup. Bjergsen going to get his blind pick. Syndra, certainly a scary one, but Unicorns clearly were aware of that opportunity. Looks like they'll kind of pick with a Corki.
Yeah, TSM last time around played Galio with into the composition. You know, it was all part of one piece of this moving puzzle here to have multi-layered engage. But after seeing so much success for the North American teams, camping mid, having mid carry, looks like Bjergsen back on his Syndra, which he gained a name for himself originally here.
And they've given XL something safe to play in the middle lane. Corki, you can just invest in early magic resistance, grabbing the Hex Drinker. You should have fine wave clear. You shouldn't stress too much about the harassment so Syndra can threaten lane, and it's much harder to camp a Corki because you do have the Valkyrie to get to safety as well. So I think so far pretty safe. You have good siege, you have good scaling on the side of Unicorns of Love, very conventional, and now we're just looking at them rounding out for their top and their jungle picks.
Right now it's going to be Tristana lopped off the opportunities. We'll see if they add another bot lane ban here against Doublelift and see if they can run him out of options. No Rumble out for Vizicachi. They just keep going down the list of champions that Chachi's played more than once. Renekton to be the other one. They want to make him bring out something almost more unique here. Final ban for Unicorns of Love, one more for TSM, then Unicorns will get first pick on the second phase. We'll see what it is.
I wonder if Unicorns choose to ban Ashe or Jhin here.
I would go Jhin.
Popular champions for Doublelift in particular. He's played a lot of Ashe, but recently in North America, you guys have been popularizing that Jhin pick. And over the last few weeks, it has been something that you guys have had a lot of success with.
I mean, his buff's been very big, and the nice thing is he's got room in his build as well to tailor how early you want to power spike.
Yes.
With the Yomus or not. Do you go double Energizer or an Essence Reaper late? And there's a lot of sort of wiggle room there to make sure he's the right amount of powerful.
Yeah, definitely the long-range initiation potential and catches for Jhin is something that Double talked a lot about for TSM wanting to incorporate into their strategies. But then he said if they really wanted to win, they would default to Bjergsen in the mid lane on a DPS threat, you know, control mage type, and him as well on another DPS scaling AD carry. So they may very well just do that with a strong front line and try and play into the 5-on-5.
I was just about to say, like, how much have you guys seen of Hecarim?
Yes.
Because he's a special of Zeus. He loves it into low mobility mid lane mages as well. Champions like Syndra around the level 6 mark. This guy, he's going to stampede on you.
Actually, a bunch. I've been playing Hecarim ever since, you know, 7.13 came out with the new Cinder Hulk. It did tremendous things for Hecarim's clear. The biggest problem for him was always the mana early on, especially in the jungle, and not being able to clear. Oh, we're getting so much.
It in.
We're getting so much of what we wanted. We're getting so much of what we wanted to see here. Stop it, Freak. We didn't talk about Gnar as well. Hecarim, though, it's awesome for him. He can build straight into the Trinity Force plus the buffs there to the Cinder Hulk. Meanwhile, though, the Gnar. Why we wanted to see that one? Vedius, go. So much buffs to him.
Oh, Irelia into Gnar too.
Oh, we got the Irelia. Oh, this is so good.
Yes.
So many fun matchups. Unicorns of Love bringing out the special picks. We can talk. You know what? Let's save the matchup talk for when we get into game, Kobe. What do we
Okay.
think about these compositions? Because Unicorns of Love, to me, they actually have a great setup for 1-3-1, which goes against a little bit of what we're used to seeing from them. But I still feel like even though they have a 1-3-1, they're gonna go mid again.
Yeah, well, if they do, it's going to be rough as long as the game is even, because TSM have huge team fight potential, and they kind of talked about wanting to default back to that style sometimes to be a bit more simple, a bit safer. Double lift on his pocket pick there with the last lock-in, with air quotes, by the way, with the Lucian, is definitely going to have a lot of mobility. The Braum, Gnar, and the Gragas are a tremendous front line for him to work around, so even the range, discrepancy isn't that big of a deal.
This is going to be a fun one. Final notes from the coaches. We're going to see just which side comes out ahead as we close out day one of North America versus Europe. Rift Rivals 2017. The players and champions on your screen here. Vedius is jumping up and down with joy. I'm in a very similar boat right here. First, Aurelia, I think we've seen in a lot of places. The Hecarim coming back in. If you're not Xerxes, you pretty much never see that champion at all. Going to be so fun to watch as it comes in.
I'm not him, and I see it all the time.
You play solo queue. No one cares about your Diamond 1 solo queue.
That's true.
But he has had so much success on it. Xerxes undefeated so far on his Hecarim. Will invest in the early Trinity Force. Let's see how successful he is against TSM.
And there is a misconception, I believe, around Hecarim. So many people always default to, oh man, you got to farm on him forever. You wait till you get your Trinity Force. You can't do anything. But Ghost is actually a very powerful level 3 gank with Hecarim. Popping that, you can usually gain the advantage as far as summoner spells. The only problem is that his jungle can be exploited because the early blue buff is very important in being able to clear camps. And without that, you definitely expose a lot of your camps when going for gank. So most of the problem is, will the enemy jungler exploit you when you go for that gank? So you really do need it to be successful.
Speaking of successful, the attempt at an invade Biofrost throws a chair into some brush, and nothing comes in. Exile waiting around the wings.
Exile, please, no.
Do they know? It's not going to matter. Oh, it might. He went back to the right. He's been slowed. Lucian, one more hit will come in, and he's going to be okay. But he had to learn Valkyrie at level 1, which is bad.
Yeah, learning Valkyrie level 1 isn't as bad as blowing your Flash level 1.
Yeah.
But it definitely is not the intended route here. Meanwhile, a ward on that blue buff I mentioned. Blue buff so important for Hecarim. Cannot state that enough, so maybe we'll see a TSM concentrated effort to go over there. And Xerxes looks like he feels it a bit.
And so one of the other strengths of Hecarim I feel that he does have is his ability to counter gank too. The amount of mobility that he has and the way in which he can respond to a lot of the early setup that enemy junglers try to make is actually very effective, especially when he comes in at full health. So I think that he has early game potential, but his real strength does come in the mid to late game where he can just charge onto the backline, very easily dive onto those low mobility carries and chunk him out of the fight.
All right, so he's not going to have any chance of his blue buffs taken away. I do like this, starting on the blue buff. Even though you give up the extra bonus experience on Raptors and all that, blah, blah, blah.
Blah, 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 blah.
Very important for him to have that cooldown reduction in mana regeneration. Meanwhile, Svenskeren gets a very nice leash here. The super leash, quote-unquote, that we have seen so much recently, and we'll return back to the Raptor.
So, we have the Hecarim chat. Let's talk about Aurelia into Gnar, because as you rightly said, Kobe, we as a caster team were excited, and we thought we'd see way more Gnar in the meta because of the buffs, because he has more damage on his Q, the range in his Mega Gnar form on the E has been increased, and overall he just feels like a very strong top laner right now.
So, one of the things why you see so much Aurelia, classically into Gnar, is because Aurelia is very good at abusing the mini form.
Yeah.
Actually on display right here. Timely trade there from Vizicachi. You can jump to the dying minion, which gives you a reset for your Q, and you can engage on him while he's in the squishy form, closing that distance. And the fact that he's trying to whittle you down with the boomerang and with those auto attacks only serves to your purposes of getting your stun off.
Sven's gotta be careful. Q could steal. He gets enough damage output of that one. Negative MR helping as well. Red buff is on it. Chachi slow, gets a stun, but now he's got to run away. Q's to the scuttle. Smart play, and that might give him enough space as mid lane pressure in for Exile means Bjergsen can't show.
Ooh, that does, reduce a little bit of that threat that he was building up in the top side. And Contracts will be able to clean up the Scuttle Crab as well. Nice trade from Bjergsen.
Yeah, good damage out there. Got the cannon at least.
But another great thing about Aurelia into Gnar as well is the fact that when you go into Mega Gnar, you get bonus health, which means that you're almost always guaranteed to get the stun off when he transforms into the big form, and you can just immediately disengage and just buy time when he's in that big scary form that you often want to avoid. And coming into the late game side lane threat as well, you have to be wary of when Hauntzer, if he decides to go for something like a Frozen Mallet, because Aurelia's biggest issue is if she fails the Q and it's on a massive cooldown, she can be very easily kited out. So that's just something that she has to respect as the game progresses.
And a lot of it, whenever you have matchups that kind of depend on kill pressure, does also hinge on jungler intervention.
Yes.
So Aurelia is so good when you have jungler pressure because she can take the opportunity to close the gap kind of at a whim and go for the all-ins and go for the kills. If you're the one also controlling vision around that lane and have that jungler pressure, that can really swing the matchup. Get her that kill, feed her Trinity Force fuel that she needs, and get her to that burst point.
Let's see who comes in next. Not going to be landed right there. Good damage on a Biofrost, but by putting the shield up, he cannot be rooted away by Samix, and so nice soft counter there. Braum into the Xayah. Keeps himself in a pretty healthy spot.
And Lucian is an AD carry that we don't really see here in the European LCS. We see him in the mid lane a few times,
Sure.
but after the mana nerfs that he had not too long ago, he slowly fell out of favor because the same sort of pressure that you had sort of whittled down because you're always running out of mana in the mid, which means that your opposition could freely farm. But being picked up by Doublelift, he has mentioned this is one of his comfort champions.
Yeah, it's very good. He considers it one of the pop-off champions. If he does well for himself, you'll see him keep going. Nice stun out from Bjergsen, really doing a great job with these trades. Exile, despite the Warlords, yeah, really getting pushed out, and the sustain, not enough to stay in lane, gonna get knocked out right here.
All right, jungle control as well, pretty decent there. You need to have that vision. As we saw, that ward definitely did alert Xerxes to spend Scarron's position as well. And you still need to get the Hunter's Potion, by the way, for your upgrade, especially if you are going to be giving over blue buffs.
Nice attempt there, but again, Biofrost there for the shield in front. You really can never trade on the Marksman in a Braum lane as long as the support plays well. Biofrost did, and they're fine.
And Doublelift's continually saving the dash for the engagement from Hylissang. As soon as Rakan comes in, dash just enough distance there to get out of knockups, usually.
Usually. We'll see him keep trading blows, though. Of course, Hylissang doing a great job playing for trades, landing a lot of Qs right here, and really is playing quite nicely for himself. Samix gets a bit of a trade, and look, they are getting ship damage in. It's solid for Unicorns of Love. It's just equal farm with a bigger wave available to TSM.
Yeah, one of the things that you'll see more and more on Rakan is this early coin start, and part of it is because of the early cooldown reduction that you get on the item, which means that you can be a little bit more aggressive, look for these trades, but also the amount of mana regeneration that you get back is actually insane because your mana costs are fairly high, which gives you a little bit more freedom. But we have to pay attention to this top lane because I can see both junglers hanging around.
And here comes the jump on forward, but not ultis available, so not going to mean much.
Yeah, I was thinking that they were going to time the jungler presence with the Mega Gnar transformation because it is telegraphed. You can see the bar charging up, and you would expect the Gnar to go in for those trades. He did kind of abort that plan, as you saw before, and walked over to Krugs. But now that Hauntzer is exhausted, if he does go aggressive, which he probably won't do in this pushing lane, he would be in an even worse position.
Yep.
But as we said, they kind of missed that window where he was confident enough to go for something.
Yeah, the timing difference actually there does matter. He's still on Krugs right now, but the blue buff is respawning in about 10 seconds, and he'll be late to the party if Sven wants to go for a steal. Looks like it won't happen here, and top lane will just farm back and forth, and that'll get reset.
And in terms of how the early game has gone for both sides, things seem pretty even so far. Slight advantage for Doublelift down in the bottom lane, but that's because he got to stick around for an extra wave as Samix decided to go back. So in terms of itemization, things looking very even all across the board.
Also, though, there is a large minion wave here for Aurelia to pick up, and she can CS under turret pretty effectively. Yes, he does kind of have to watch the health pool, but as you can see, he's managing the Corrupting Potion. You don't want to completely top off because you want to have that threat of your stun, obviously, for any potential dives or anything like that. So use your Corrupting Potion to kind of sit at that 70% of health mark, depending on your enemy's health, and continue with that threat while also getting the last hits with your Q.
And speaking of continuing with threats, we saw Bjergsen now twice look to roam top lane. This time around, Hauntzer said, no. He's recalling, don't bother, just go back to your own lane. But Bjergsen has had lane priority for a while, and he's threatened roam several times now.
Yeah.
And a stun. They stopped Valkyrie with that one. Good damage out of the Q. Thanks to the Null Magic Mantle. Exile pretty tanky, but he might QR onto this. Look for a bit more damage. He is. Should survive it. Null Magic Mantle again at work. Health Potion, or sorry, Ruby Crystal there at work as well. So Exile itemizing properly to not die here.
Very much a pressure play to try and force Exile back. He does have the Doran Shield, and he's relying on health pots. As we see another engage in the bottom lane.
2v3 this one, looking for the tackle, gets a bit of damage and a Biofrost now. Will he go for the hard charge and a Biofrost, and he won't go for it? Brom's going to stay alive.
Yeah, good split there on the wall, and they kind of use the bull rider technique there for
Doublelift waves the flag.
Into the wall. But honestly, yeah, let's return to that mid lane, because Bjergsen does have the mana regeneration to continually use his ultimate like that, just for health gains and try and continue to harass Exile and kind of make him play a little bit more defensively and work up the CS lead.
And I'm looking at these compositions and I'm thinking about what TSM are looking to do, as you see it as a gank mid.
Body slam there, explosive cast going to land. Exhaust onto the tank doesn't mean nearly as much. Stun's going to be there as well. No ulti up yet for Bjergsen as Xerxes rejoins. Flash auto's not going to be enough to kill, and the chase still in for Xerxes. Not going to go for the full kill. No ulti used.
And this is the power of the counter gank from Xerxes, who's in the bottom side of the map. All in happens top.
He's got a lot of damage here on a Hansu. He's trying to hook the but not going to get it. First blood, solo kill on the top lane. The counter pick pays off.
See, as soon as he sees the jungler, there's that engagement. The burst potential we talk about is Trinity Force is completed on the last back, immediately takes advantage and gets the kill.
Vizicachi, Spring Split MVP, gets the solo kill down onto Hansa on Irelia into Gnar. European fans are super hyped right now.
Yes, you are. And Doublelift trading back and forth here as well. And Unicorns of Love now sitting on that nice solid 500-600 gold lead. The first blood worth 400, and the landing phase still in their advantage as well. So really, got to say, a well-played early game here for Unicorns of Love, especially a stark contrast to the previous game they played.
And I'm thinking about what this also means for the side of the Unicorns of Love. So we can see exactly how he's doing this. Now, bear in mind how he uses the minions to close the gap initially. He still has his Q up, so the moment Hansa creates a gap, Chachi can still follow up with the Q. So there's always a means of sticking onto this Gnar.
Yep, exactly as we said, closes the gap, gets the burst, gets the kill, and that is further going to fund that Trinity Force that we talked about. Meanwhile, in the mid lane, package picked up for Exile, so he'll be a little bit more safe, but in that last exchange, he burned both summoners, and Bjergsen does still have his ghost.
Another stun landed, though, means a lot of damage. The Hex Drinker, though, plus parts of a Phage. Sven waiting around on the wings. There's no jungler on the bottom side, but he might have gotten spotted by a controller even walking in the first place. And they will walk back and forth. And yep, Sven spotted. Doesn't go through that brush, though. So he's not going to clear the ward just yet. Looking for the play in the bot lane, but of course they know he's here.
Yeah, exactly. And by the movement of the bottom lane, you can kind of infer that you've walked over a ward. He may not say, oh, it has to be that pixel brush. There has to be a control ward in there. That is one of the most common, though. So might go back and check that on the way out. Meanwhile, Hill's saying,
a lot of damage available. The perfect timing as well, and he just kept waiting to jump over and never did it. And now it's going to be a possible stun. What a ulti. A failed prediction by Svenskern. Means something picked up there, but a Root and Double, he's got to run away. Still 300 health. Here comes Irelia, flashing away to safety for now. And the re-engage comes in as Hanser's now part of the fray. That will be a stun. It will be a slow as well, but they will not pick up the kill. A trade of teleports, and out they go.
Big question mark for Hillisang. Why would you try and clear out that ward when you know the enemy jungler is in your half of the map and your enemy bottom lane has the push priority?
Unicorns were thinking about stopping those backs there to buy time for Xerxes to come down, but TSM back off fully under the turret, so they won't be able to get that counter kill on the bottom side.
Giant farm lead, though, for Vizicachi. He's going to feel pretty good. This Irelia can absolutely take over this game, and a champion to watch. She's going to keep winning that top lane matchup for a long time until Hanser gets better items.
But this also ties in nicely to the point we were briefly discussing earlier about like what both these teams are looking to do, right? Because bear in mind, the whole goal of Unicorns of Love is to wait and scale up. They have really good scaling composition with the Corki and the Hecarim, and making plays like this is not going to help you scale up because you're going to force Samux behind, and it answers nicely for exactly what TSM want to do, which is very much try and get Doublelift ahead and get him snowballing on this Lucian.
And sometimes we say scale up and we mean multiple crit items, but okay, never mind. Let's take a look at this engagement first.
Auto shots in the bow. Yeah. The shield is up, just jumps right back.
All right, he should be able to get out of it. Sometimes we say, oh yeah, you need to get your Infinity Edge and all these crit multipliers. For this, everybody just wants a Trinity Force on Unicorns of Love. That is the extent of the skill. Right? Once there's a Trinity Force on Irelia, on Hecarim, on Corki, they're ready to go.
Ready to go.
And they want to use the tons of damage with their triple Trinity Force comp.
You see, this was the flaw in their battering ram before. It didn't do enough damage, you see?
So you need three battering rams.
You need 3 battering rams, all fueled and ready by the 20-minute mark. And that's when they're going to look to siege onto the doors of TSM.
Well, they got the Phages to hammer it back together. Hopefully, it's going to have a nice sheen over it, and they'll be ready to go. Yeah, you like that, right? I think I nailed it.
That was good.
Now we have the top lane pushing back in, and Doublelift and Biofrost on this lane swap, the same place that Unicorns of Love are. Q's going to miss. No chair yet. And only +3 farm there right now for Doublelift, still waiting to scale up with his own Essence Reaper.
Meanwhile, we've got Xerxes waiting for a counter gank there, backed by Krugs. Efficient setup, and might go more offensive. Double Lift and Bio are going to see him a little bit late.
Here comes the pony.
The flash, the charm, everything's there. Now Double forced to run away, but he's not long for the world, and Xerxes picks that one up, and knock-up for Biofrost not going to be much either as the chase continues, looking for the next chance. The flash over to safety, Biofrost going to get away, but 2-1 UOL.
That's top side, though. TSM should be able to take objective top, bottom side, and they do just jump on that Drake. Double Lift, however, dying, plus the flash of Biofrost and turret damage here.
That's going to be a lot.
But thanks to that early kill, Xerxes now poised and ready to get that Trinity Force spike. Aurelia's already completed hers as well. UOL reaching the point in the game where they're poised and ready as Bjergsen goes for an all-in.
No mana for any sort of movement here from Exile.
Exhaust really, really late, but Hextrigger still pops and it forces the flash, so double summoners out. So Bjergsen is ghosted. He's going to flash for the QE. One more couple of shots will do it. The W's going to land. One more Q. There it is, and Bjergsen knew there was no way back out for Exile. The late exhaust certainly meant a lot because almost none of the damage is blocked.
Takes him a bit longer, but Exile eventually does go down in the 1v1. That whole time, though, as we said, the turret objective still taken for Unicorns of Love, so they got that first turret bonus. Bjergsen now might be it.
Chachi can't stun unless he takes some damage here. Forces the run, though.
He did have the flash, thought he might go for a play, instead decides not to. But I think the big mistake there from Exile was the fact that he tried to stick around without having enough mana to try and trade back against Bjergsen, because Bjergsen, he invested a lot, but now we see a lot of investment from TSM at the top side of the map.
Oh, Biofrost finds himself. Samix doubles in there as well. The flash is already down, and there's no quite way out. Looks like the call is to back up because the rest of the team is coming. Here's Hylissang. You've got the rest of the squad nearby as well. Xerxes was walking back up. 3 in the tri-brush, looking for that top lane turret. Just maybe they're going to find Hylissang one more time. They're going to find Xerxes. Body slam's going to land. Explosive cast, not going to land in time. Xerxes was able to get the ulti across, but they found a slow into Exile as Bjergsen forced a kite back. Package keeps him to safe, though. And Exile's gonna be just fine.
Pretty good trade there from Exile, actually, chunking down Bjergsen and knowing that he has the uninterruptible package to be able to get him back out of there. That should give them a bit of an edge here on the mid lane push.
Out they go. Hylissang going to get slowed down and find himself fence guard. And it looks like, again, the Gragas is all going Runic Echoes here.
All right, they're collapsing here with the extra Trinity forces of Hecarim and Aurelia from the bottom side. TSM have to be a bit wary. They don't have double F with them.
They're going to find the Charmer. The knock of the Quickness going to find a third as well. They're going to look for the dive, and they might just have it as a Chachi with the ulti. Gets one final shot down, and Bjergsen takes him out in the mid lane. Sven going to fall as well. Now Hanser is Meganar, finds one, gets Exile. They're going to get a second as well. The turnaround from the tanks. It's 2 down on both sides.
And double F is coming down the river. He's walking over Vision, though, and you can sync up your recall, so no problem there. And both of them are out of there.
And TSM, they respond beautifully to the way in which UOL tried to dive. I feel like they read the play very early on. They could clearly see what was going to happen. They know that Unicorns of Love want to try and utilize this power spike, and you can see the Nut, he's ready to come in from the bottom lane. The TP immediately, the moment that engage comes out from Hylissang, Haunts is ready to join the fray. He comes in a little later than he would have liked, but there's 2 members so deep behind the turrets that it's easy for him to then clean.
That's the key. They were so deep there. Samix was tanking the turret. He took 3 shots and never got to get past the front turret with the dive. Nobody, tanky enough to actually face tank that one, so they're completely split up. They got locked down with the teleport, and even though teleport is a big cooldown and that's important, the flash engage from Rakan is also important. He didn't actually have to use flash in that one, though. It was someone else's that he went off of.
Yeah, still diving in there with the rest of the teammates feels pretty good. And it looks like TSM looking for a little cheeky push, and Hylissang keeps cutting back and forth. Mobies will help him dodge, and out he goes.
So if we can just toggle the vision that TSM have right now, they've invested a huge amount around the Rift Herald along with just the top side of the jungle. Their whole goal is to either get this top tier 1 tower or to invest in trying to get that early Rift Herald, because with it, you have to recognize that their siege is not the strongest. They have a lot of pick potential with the Syndra, but the range and ability to get close to the towers is actually quite short, which means that every time they get close, there's a huge risk of a Hecarim engaging on you or the Rakan. So having that Rift Herald will enable their siege to break through these tier 1 towers.
Worth pointing out, though, TP advantage for Chachi, who's already winning his lane in the first place. One more shot, I'll do it, and Hanser took so long trying to fight him back. Doesn't come through. Chachi with his 2nd solo kill of the laning phase.
He continues to not give enough room to this Aurelia, and even after he's been solo killed once due to the burst, after the Trinity Force is completed, TSM goes offensive in the mid lane, though they have to worry about being collapsed upon.
Well, TP still is available to Chachi, though ulti down might not really matter, but so far it's not going to be a play as Samix himself is far away. The big knockback is there, and they found Xerxes. The flash into the turret, it's going to be double looking for one more, just barely. Gets the duel, wins it out in the end. Mid lane going to fall as well, and TSM in a 4v5 get the dive.
Another great play from TSM. They identify that it's only Exile and Xerxes in the middle lane. Xerxes is very squishy this early on into the game by going for the early Trinity Force, which means that with 4 members and a Syndra, they feel more than happy to go for that dive, get the kills, and break down that tier 1.
And remember that TSM have built their team for 5-on-5 team fighting. So if they commit to your turret push like that, you have to respect the dive. You have to know that they're actually the ones using the battering ram style this time around. They're looking for a 5-on-5 to fight you straight up. And really good engagement and tower dive there from TSM to take that opportunity. UL stepping up a bit close. Svenskeren following up on Bjergsen's stun.
And I feel like the mistake here is from UOL by not sending Exile off onto a side lane, because what do you actually gain from having your AD carry up in the top lane? Like, he has nothing to push. Sure, he has a tower there, but there's nothing really to punish from the side of Unicorns. And when you have Samix and Hylissang together, there's a lot more wave clear, there's a lot more defensive setup to better protect that tower. But so I think the lane assignment's a little bit off for the Unicorns of Love, but regardless, great play from TSM and another advantage game.
There's your pop-off stats, Freak, as you were referring to double lift. That was earlier in the day versus G2 on his Tristana.
Yeah. Not quite as immaculate in this game, but still having a pretty good show for himself. And Samix slowed down, but he's got the backup because he keeps going forward off that. And TSM rightly going to back away here.
So I'm looking at other possibilities for both these teams now, because the whole goal now for both Xerxes and Vizichachi, I feel, should be to get tankier, and you then shift your damage towards your mid lane and your AD carry. With the Corki, you do have good scaling because you expect him to go towards the Infinity Edge and then the Rapid Fire and the Static Shiv. And for Samix, he's going for the full crit build with the Essence Reaver, the Eye Edge, and Static, maybe Rapid Fire, maybe even Phantom Dancer if he wants a little bit more survivability. So I want to see tanky stats now from the jungle.
On Hecarim, you almost always build full tank after your Trinity Force, unless you're in solo queue. Yes, Freak, like me, you want to go Yomu's and you want to one-shot people. It does feel good. With that. But as we said, TSM are building for that 5-on-5, so you kind of have to make a choice. Do you want to keep Aurelia split pushing in the side lane for that side lane pressure to gain the setup and gain that vision?
And you're actually talking about Zeal items, Andy, but I actually think Hurricane is the right choice here for Samix on the Xayah because it's a triple tank composition. You're actually going to hit all of them, and even if the passer gets blocked by Braum, you'll just multi-hit Braum and kill him faster. I actually, against tank teams, I actually really want to see Hurricane because you need to multiply that damage and keep up with what TSM is putting out here and cut through the front line. But we'll see if all they need is wave clear because they're going to win through Chachi, right? If Chachi's going to win the game 1v9 by split pushing, then all you want is Shiv for wave clear to let him win the game for you.
The thing is, though, the only way in which you're going to win on the side lane is if UOL can hold off the other 4, maybe even 5 members as the group. And we talked a lot about the battering ram and how the fact that TSM, they're all about trying to just run down mid themselves and try and force fights. If UOL cannot hold them off and instead try and use the Aurelia to actually come into the fray, that's actually a big opportunity for TSM to then swing a lot of these mid-game advantages in their favor.
So Phantom Knight's going to be the choice for him, actually. More dueling power to make sure he doesn't get 1v1 by Doublelift or Bjergsen, and it has its own merits, of course. Doublelift himself going Rapid Fire Cannon, which I like as a slightly winning team and helps you push into those fights a little bit faster. I don't think they're really going to lack for damage. I think that was a good choice. Hanser now going to kite away. He's Meganar and says, yeah, I'm going to hide. Vizichachi might try to kill me, and he doesn't have great wave clear just yet. Defense to the top side, the damage going to be nothing, and you can see that Samix, when he's not very heavily contested, can wave clear just fine with his Xayah.
Yeah, I do like the thing around Rapid Fire Cannon as far as getting the extra range for your pot shots you want to take on the turret to get that little bit of damage and whittle down and get a bit more pressure when you're grouping up in the 5v5. You can, here we go for the engage.
The big knockup's going to be there. Svenskeren dropped pretty low for himself, gets a quick shield, tries to flash away, but here comes the charge back in for Xerxes. Gets the fear, but he's got enough teammates. That ulti means absolutely nothing. A double stun out of Bjergsen. Exile's going to be a bit careful, has the Mega, and is just going to pop a quick Valkyrie or package to get out of that one. He's going to kite back a slow, and Hylissang could be a bit dangerous, trying to jump in, and he's stunned, so he can't join the recall just yet. Flashing, but maybe what for is a Summoner Heal not going to buy him enough time. Kill picked up. Here comes Featherstorm, and not going to pull them back on the Blade Caller just yet. Now the tackle back into the turret. Blade Caller not going to land. Still cutting back. Kill kind of comes through to Vizichachi. Rejoining the fight. His 4th kill of the game.
What a split call from TSM there. They were literally all together 4-man, and Bjergsen's walking back to the mid lane while Doublelift is going for this dive because he, caught out Hylissang. In the end, they do get collapsed on and do get traded on. I think that was a bit of miscommunication maybe. In the end, they still get the turret, they get the kill, they get the pressure. It wasn't disastrous. Could have been a bit cleaner though.
But think about what Urwell gained off the back of that too. Chachi, he picks up another kill. Urwell, they're able to take down that mid-tier 1 as well because Bjergsen, he tried to join the fray in the top side of the map. So Unicorns, they're constantly answering these plays that TSM make, and I agree. I feel like the TSM, they weren't entirely on the same page. They could have been happy with the harassment that they got down, but it felt like they wanted to try and get this teleport out from Chachi so that they had an advantage to play around. But Hunter, he still TP'd in just at the very end of the fight where he could have no real value.
So see what comes in next for this one. The TP traded at least in the very two of them, and that's almost a positive for TSM, though, to trade teleports and have them be down because it means the map is going to be a bit more split up. They can't call their top laners back into the fight. Hanser has to leave and walk over if he wants the team fight, which will give time to visit Chachi. Blade of the Ruin King done. Merc treads in, now building towards tank stats with that Ruby Crystal. Righteous Glory in for Sven. You talked again about it being split push versus team fight. Sven needing to start these out with the Righteous Glory. Well, Biofrost found out that puts the shield up. He's got to buy a bit of time. Ulti is, I believe, not quite available for a few more seconds. Actually, Xerxes forced to jump away with his own, the Onslaught of Shadows. Onslaught of Retreat here for this. Sven still holding the front line. Hylissang cutting back and forth, waiting for his chance to jump. Gets away from the stun.
And look, Unicorns of Love, they're grouping up as a 5. The Aurelia's here with the team. Very classic Unicorns of Love style, but they're the ones being pushed back.
Yeah. Gonna be knocked back, though. They're gonna find Rakan. He's got no way out. Hylissang gonna get shut down by Doublelift, his 3rd kill.
I mean, you have an Aurelia that has that guaranteed advantage. Right now, though, TSM group up S5, use the composition to just straight brute force down mid lane.
The Trebuchet is going to knock down more of the castle walls as mid lane 2-2 going to fall. They found the stun. They found the Mega Gnar. They're going to find 2 more kills. Why even bother defending Unicorns of Love? Terrible at ARM in this game.
I mean, you're looking at the forms of engage that they have with all the Gragas, the Gnar, the Braum as well, and they're effortlessly used at these turrets over and over again to grab kills. Now it's onto the Baron though, and there is a chance for Xerxes to try and get in there.
But with the battering ram broken, he can't break down any of the walls. There's no way to jump over the freight train without an ultimate right now.
No more battering rams, okay? We're done with the rams.
They found the stun though, and Chachi has been taken down from long range, and 1,000 health left on the Baron. Sven does have smite. There's no way about it. He's going to grab that one cleanly. TSM in complete control of this game. One more attack would stun Xerxes, but they're not going to find it.
And it's just so typical of the Unicorns of Love when they have a perfect opportunity to set up the 1-3-1. They group up mid, or rather in the river, and they try to find some kind of fight or opportunity or pick. And you can just see that at this point, like, there's no ultimate available for the Hecarim. Their main engage tool is gone. Because they've split up and Xayah is going through the jungle, Hylissang just gets caught out and he can't be used to start a fight either. So TSM, they have nothing to be afraid of. And rather than concede the tower, Urwell still tried to fight. And then you get this beautiful engage off the back of TSM.
Yeah, Hanser able to get in there with the Gnar. Oh, double stun into the wall. Svenskeren had his engagement earlier, and TSM able to use their 5-on-5 with Baron buff now to threaten turrets.
They're going to be very threatening on this one. 26 minutes in, not quite going to find the stun. They will get a slow, but he's able to jump back there to Samix. Hylissang going to stay safe for now, but running out of tools. This will be a destroyed turret. 5-3 the turret score here. 2 drakes picked up, a 3rd one spawning in 15 seconds. That will be lower down to the priority list right now as the mid lane is under fire, and Hanser trying to run away, but he's not going to be able to easily. Flashes to get away from Onslaught of Shadows. And they'll get a hook shield for Biofrost to stay safe. Now they're re-engaged. They found one. They found a slow. Visit Chachi running out of health, and Biofrost with the steel chair takes him out. 2 for 0 so far. The escape again for Exile. The package going to buy only a few seconds of time as mid lane inhibitor turret going to fall. 5v3 for TSM, still with the Baron buff.
And TSM, they're just so effectively snowballing this lead. They have all 5 members alive. There's no support, no top laner for UOL. And TSM, they are not stopping.
Looking to take down the turrets right now. The stone crumbling in front of them, turning UOL into firewood. As they're going to knock down one more Nexus turret. As soon as they put the attacks in, they force Exile back onto the fountain after Valkyrie, and Biofrost not even taking any damage anymore. Hanser cutting back and forth. Wants to kill Samix, can't quite get it, but looking for the side here. On this one is Hecarim cutting back and forth, looking for the play. No turrets left alive. Can they defend as the teammates are respawning? Xerxes gonna take some damage. Look for the knockup. They're trying to take down Hunch, but they can't quite do it. Now 4v5 as Chachi respawns into this one, looking for the play of Rampage for Doublelift. 3 kills already coming into this one. Can Chachi get anything done? It looks like he cannot. The team staying alive. All 5 of TSM are there, and there's no opposition left. A quadra kill for Bjergsen. making his triumphant return to Europe as TSM going to make it happen. 18-6, waiting in the fountain, letting minions do the dirty work. And that's GG. TSM 2-0, North America up 4-2.
TSM themselves undefeated here at Rift Rivals after day number 1. Really strong mid-game showing there, and Unicorns of Lud could not take advantage of the Aurelia, could not take advantage of their split push to set up anything in the mid-game. They just got run over.
And I was really impressed with the way in which TSM were able to play that mid-game. The fact that they just grouped up as a 5, they recognized what they needed to do, try and avoid Chachi on the side lane and just drag him to the rest of the team. And Unicorns, they fell for it. They didn't even try to apply pressure on the side lane. They didn't utilize the strength of this Aurelia. And while it was an exciting pick at the start, they just could not make it work.
It was effective for the first 15 minutes. He went from 4-1-0 to 4-4-0. In the duration of his teleport being down, he stuck with the team and could do nothing in team fights. It's a full squishy build. Trinity Force and a Ruin King, and lo and behold, when you've got 5 stuns in the opposition, it's hard to be a full squishy melee champion. That's exactly what happened to him. TSM, though, strong team fighting, and honestly, very solid by them. It's going to be the closeout here of day 1. Of course, there's going to be 12 more best of 1s over the next 2 days, and the climactic best of 5 for the 2 winningest teams, 1 from each region. So far, those smiles for TSM coming in, and you expect NA to get better from here if jet lag is part of the situation. And honestly, I thought coming into the day there was a decent chance of NA going 0-6 because they had all flown over within 48, 72 hours here. In Phoenix One's case, right, they flew almost 12 hours after we did, and I've been here barely a day and a half at this point. And I think it's been a strong start for NA. You hope that they get a good night's sleep and they feel even more comfortable, but of course, again, there's so much more to be played. We know that EU can bounce back.
And there's so much variability in best of 1s.
Yes.
So much can be learned as well from the other teams about if they have not done the proper research and finding their own weaknesses as well.
But I also just think that there are a lot of weaknesses from some of the European teams, that are being exploited, right? Because one of the big hype factors from European teams were like, oh, we have such unique stars. If you've never played against that star before, you don't know how to react. And a lot of the North American teams are just like, what if we just get a 10,000 gold lead in the first 10 minutes of the game? What are you going to do? And then Europe like, oh, no, that's not supposed to happen. And I do think that a big part of it is just because of how active these junglers are being in the early game. I've been really impressed with North America's just jungle present and where they're investing their early game.
I totally agree, honestly. We've had a couple of different record-setting games, and more than just one, where it's one of the NA teams' best lead of the entire split, and one of the EU's teams' worst deficit the entire split at like a 15 or 10 or 20-minute mark here. So you're right that these early games have been completely unlike any other game this split.
And these, group stage games also, you're kind of just competing against your own region anyway. Because even though you're playing against the other region's teams, what you're playing for is the record at the end of the day to see who plays in the final. So honestly, it's a kind of a learning ground for both regions anyway.
Right.
As far as improving and just putting the best team forward for the 5-on-5 finals.
But it's also a taster for Worlds.
Also feels good for
it also feels very good if you're an American fan. But this is also, to me, like a big taster for Worlds, right? Because this is the format for the group stages. Like, you do play those double round best of 1s. Like, you have to be willing to bring it out.
So you're saying NA to win Worlds?
Yeah, right now things are looking like that, right? But also we're identifying some big things. So I'm looking forward to seeing how the rest of the week develops.
Sure. Well, keep in mind the mantra is NA beats EU in the games that don't matter, and then when they do, Europe turns around. So the best of 5s going to Fnatic. We all know it. But that's going to do it for us here at the Castle Desk. Let's send it down to Dracos for a word with TSM's mid laner.
Thank you very much, Freak. I am, in fact, joined by Bjergsen, victorious yet again on the day. So tell me, playing up against Unicorns of Love, was this a big challenge for TSM? Because you guys made it look pretty clean.
Just what I heard from other teams and watching their games, they're just very scrappy. They're a very scrappy team. They always kind of want to fight, and it's very chaotic. So that's kind of what I expected going into the game. I think the game was pretty decently in our favor. The only real issue was kind of these picks that we never play against, like Aurelia and Hecarim were actually doing really well, but the champions we're used to playing against, like Corki, was no problem holding down. So I think a little bit of unfamiliarity was the only real issue we had. Vishachachi's Aurelia was obviously a really good champion of his.
Definitely looked good for him, but it seems like you guys did a really good job of minimizing the impact of those unknown champions. Was this a conversation that happened in pick ban when you saw these crazy picks coming in? Did you guys have a strategy ready for it, or did you kind of just play it by ear, so to speak, as you went into the game?
I think we watched a little bit of how they play with Hecarim, or just that he plays mainly to farm in the early game. He didn't have a lot of impact, but the Aurelia pick, you can't really prepare much for. It's just a champion that everyone on our team has played against a lot over the years. It has been meta a lot in the past, so it's not a new champion that no one's ever played against. So it's just about thinking back to, oh, what does Aurelia do? What are her weaknesses? For example, when she jumps into a team fight and she has two like offensive items, Triforce and Bork, she just blows up. So that was one of the things that was really easy for me to recognize and just kill her in team fights.
Definitely saw it pretty repeatedly across that game. Now you are back in home turf, maybe not in terms of competitive League of Legends, but in terms of origination. How do you feel about playing in Europe, playing on European soil again?
I like it a lot. Just seeing a lot of the people that I knew from here in Germany or at ULCS, seeing a lot of my friends from the European teams, and playing EU solo queue has been a pretty good, has pretty good time so far. I don't know. It's been really nice. Obviously, feels better when we win. Everything's a lot more fun when we win, but it's been fun.
Well, speaking of that, NA is now at 4-2. Now, Freak had some interesting predictions about Fnatic coming in, taking the best of 5 in the long run. But do you feel like we've already seen today that NA is greater than EU?
Oh, man. I don't think you can judge off of just one day because I think a lot of things can change. It comes down to which teams are adapting the best throughout the tournament to the opposite meta. I can't say NA meta is better or EU meta is better, but obviously there's been different priorities, and the teams from both regions are going to try to adjust to what the other teams are playing, and then we're just going to see who comes out ahead in terms of that.
We definitely will. Well, a very diplomatic answer there to close it out. Congrats again on your win, and thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me. For now, we are going to toss things over to the analyst desk to close out the day.
Thank you very much, Drake. Burger King. Diplomacy all around. But I think it's also safe to say, although, yeah, you should take that off. Nobody got that. It's the end of the day.
No one noticed.
Nobody noticed. But we did see the Unicorns of Love, and we talked about the picks right there in the interview. Unicorns of Love, very Unicorns of Love-centered draft in this game. And with it, we also got to see some vintage Vizicachi. And here's that top lane 1v1 for First Blood. Brought to you by Acer, because I just wanted to get that out of the way, as it was a matchup we were looking at, the Gnar versus Vizicachi, and Vizicachi delivered.
And I think that Vizicachi did play the 1v1 very well. I was surprised that there wasn't more jungle attention given to this lane, especially from Svenskaren's side, because this is a lane that Aurelia wins in an isolated 1v1, but you win by all-inning. You do not win by sitting back and playing passively. You will get eventually like chunked out and stuff by the Gnar, and if when Aurelia all-ins, Gragas is sitting there waiting in the bush, the game is like over for Aurelia. So I was surprised that TSM didn't play more heavily around it, but Vizicachi played very well in the 1v1.
Yeah, like I think they maybe just had respect for like Vici and the Hecarim 2v2 almost.
Yeah.
But they also like were able to get leads in other lanes, especially the dual lane did really well, and were actually able to shut down the Rakan and Zaya combo that is so famous in Europe but not really played too much in other regions. So that was impressive to me that I thought always that like that Bjergsen was like the big carry and obviously like that, and he was able to solo queue his opponent. But in this case scenario, I think the bot lane did really well and was actually like more or less just advancing the game.
Yeah, and I think even though Gnar is behind, it doesn't necessarily matter if you can just group 5v5 when the rest of the map is winning, because we never really saw Aurelia get to extend her advantage, get to go to the side lanes and pressure her. And a lot of that is because TSM is constantly pushing and they have pressure themselves.
Yeah, and making the right plays and also not allowing Unicorns of Love, well, even to do what they like to do, which is go to the mid lane and pick a fight. Even there, TSM were much stronger. We're going to take a look at an example of that one. Well, it happened over and over, and it was to me a very convincing game just from start to finish, but this kept happening.
No, this mid lane siege was beautifully set up. They had priority, but they were also really decisive, and that's what's important. Like TSM has always struggled with the fact that they seem to be like undecisive, especially at international events, and especially against aggressive opponents. And I think they kind of shut this down a bit, like at least today, and especially in this game.
Yeah, that's a great point.
And Bjergsen had so many good stuns on Syndra. I mean, two-man stun there that sets up those kills. The dive that they had on the tier 2 turret right before they got Baron was another two-man stun set up by Bjergsen. And this is kind of the reason that he doesn't get to play Syndra very often in NA, is he doesn't often lose on the pick. And if he ever gets ahead, it always feels like the game is just like over.
Yeah, super convincing day, I would say, even for TSM, even though it was a different game versus G2. They got 2 wins on the board. Let's take a look at the standings after day 1 and the action here at Rift Rivals. Not too much to say there because there haven't been that many games played, but NA is definitely on the upper hand. But what I really wanted to look at is also the individual results of the games, because I feel like a lot of the thoughts about what the teams or how the teams would show up to this tournament have been a bit dismantled or turned on its head. Fnatic is not looking as dominant as a start, Unicorns of Love is definitely not looking dominant, and the American teams have brought something to the Rift.
Yeah, like the American teams seem to be way more aggressive, and this is something that you actually expect from European teams due to the fact that their meta is more or less created in isolation, where like EU is less likely to watch Korea and therefore more likely to actually like find other ways to win the game. And TSM, like, and especially P1, surprisingly coming in with a lot of aggression, and C9 too. It's just something that I think Europe wasn't prepared for today, but will probably like end up being prepared for tomorrow.
And I think, honestly, the record is not what you should be concerned about if you are an EU fan, right? Like, I don't think it really matters, 4-2, whatever. But for me, like, looking at Fnatic, I'm more concerned about the ways that they have been playing these games, the way that they lost, and even the way that they won their first game was not impressive. And for a team that has looked so good, watching them throughout the summer split, like that's more what you're concerned about, whether it's they're not used to the playstyle that the NA teams are bringing, or different priorities in meta. That's something that we had talked about. Seeing in some of the games things like Caitlyn, LeBlanc, Gragas that C9 got against Fnatic that first round draft. Like those are three of the highest priority champions in the game in NA, but in EU they're not as popular. Yeah,
it's actually interesting to see like almost this shift in questioning, where like to begin with, we're always asking, can NA teams actually handle EU's aggressive playstyle and EU's almost like 1-3-1 meta? And it seems to be more like, can EU handle NA's 1-4 meta and actually control playstyle, where they get like small leads and translate these small leads into big team leads?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's very much shown today. And one standout performance I also want to highlight is C9's mid laner, Jensen. He came up with a very strong performance, not only on LeBlanc, but especially on LeBlanc versus Fnatic. Led his team to their first victory at Rift Rivals, and this was also a great example of snowballing a lead and playing the map.
Yeah, and playing so well around Jensen and enabling him. I mean, Smoothie and Contracts came time and time again, and really was a pretty good day for NA mids in general. Ryu had a huge game on Corki. I mean, we just saw a dominating performance from Bjergsen on Syndra, so all three of them at least had one really good game.
Definitely so. It's looking a bit scary there, and also like just the story of Jensen, the fact that he gets to play here on the European stage and show his worth. If we look at the standings so far, do you see any promise, any team that might develop and crush the rest? I feel like TSM is looking the best to me, or feels the best to me from all the teams we've seen today.
I'm not entirely sure. Like, I was really impressed with C9's performance against Fnatic. So, like, if you take the loss against G2 with a grain of salt, because of the fact that Sneaky kind of got caught in the mid to late game and enabled G2 to come back, I think that C9 is actually like up there with TSM, and it's more or less of a question whether or not EU can actually like get back to the level that they aspire to be at.
For me, like my expectations are not getting too high, because I know like watching these guys in the NALCS, sometimes they'll have like this amazing series and you're like, oh my god, they figured it all out, and then the next day they just get absolutely stomped.
I want to push it back in your favor, because before the tournament it was all like EU's gonna crush everyone, and now like
just remember,
no, take the high, take the high.
That's how it works.
Well, we did see some NA wins for actually today, but some EU wins, but the stats don't lie. Let's get a look at Rift Rivals Day 1 by the numbers. The stats break down 4-2 in wins, goal difference at 15.
Oh man.
It's a draw, and then for Quills, NA is definitely up as well as the Dragon.
Well, the goal difference is actually negative 1.3K for EU.
That was wishful thinking. I didn't see the minus.
That doesn't look good.
No, totally, it's not true. It's probably an error. No, just kidding. But
all
yeah,
fake news. You can't believe that.
according to the stats, North America is also seemingly stronger. Which one of those is
remember,
the most
Europe
important?
is still heavily favored.
I mean, yeah, I guess. No, the most important stat is actually this goal difference at 15. Like Nash's and Dragons and everything like that is like something that's almost arbitrary. But like I think this 15-minute like goal difference means that these teams are actually able to like get early leads and put EU down, and actually like just make sure and like that they have a good base to like get those drakes and nurses later in the game.
And being ahead means you can take the dragons and stuff, right? So that's obviously pretty correlated, but it is kind of crazy to think. So G2 had 5 dragons in one of their games. So that means that all the other European teams in the other 5 games took 3 dragons, right? Total. So like that's very low dragon control, and like I don't think that it's just a priority thing. I just think it's speaking more to the fact that NA has had some very strong early games, so they're able to have access to the objective.
That is super surprising to me as well, because you think actually about most teams, C9 kind of an okay early game, TSM kind of an okay early game, Phoenix One surging, but Fnatic was the team that was supposed to like get the numbers up for the side of Europe, because they had a 1K gold lead on average at 15, or 1K higher than the
European average.
Then
And
the
the
European
average.
average. That is
Yeah.
what I meant. And now, all of a sudden, the whole European region is god-awful in the early game. So what are we going to do?
It's only one day. You know, we
Yeah.
have to see what happens tomorrow, what happens
Sabian.
the next day. It's been amazing. You could always do that. You know, he'll fix all the problems in the early games as he has for the monkeys.
No, I mean, I think that EU teams just have to draft less cocky. They have to like actually acknowledge that these are not low-tier EU teams that they're going to be crushing. Those are top-tier teams that have like Korean experience behind them too, like international experience behind them too. Because all of the 3 NA teams are backed by Korean coaches, as far as, or like besides like TSM, but they still have this Korean influence where they look at 1-4 metas and they look at how to control the early game in order to set themselves up for an evenish game or even like being ahead. So I think EU has to take a step back, acknowledge that they're not as good as they thought they would be, and just like learn from the enemies.
Yeah, a lot
Adaptation.
of impressions. Adaptation, a lot of impressions of day one, and we still got 2 full days of as many games as today. More regional battles coming up tomorrow. Cloud9 versus Unicorns of Love will be kicking off the action at 5 p.m. Central European Summer Time. And then more of the same. TSM Fnatic is also coming up, a 3rd game of the day, and they all look incredibly interesting. One in specific you guys want to see?
TSM Fnatic. I think
Yeah.
that is the one that most people would have pinpointed coming into the tournament. It's still the one I'm looking at. I mean,
Double
TSM
if trash talk.
TSM had a better start to the tournament than Fnatic, but that does not mean that they're favored, I think, at all tomorrow. So Fnatic, if there's a game for them to bounce back in, you know, taking down the #1 NA seed would be a big win.
Yeah, it would be a great statement for them to do, especially after Cavs kind of get crushed after against the other NA mid laner or EU NA mid laner, however you want to put it. I think he
Full
wants,
NA.
yeah, he wants to put pull back and actually like make a statement game for himself to establish himself as like the top EU mid laner.
All right, we'll see a lot to look out for tomorrow, and it's time for us to log off for the night. Thank you so much, and thank you guys for joining me on the desk all day to cover all the games. And join us tomorrow for part 2 of this regional clash between NA and EU. Have a great night.
Ladies and gentlemen.